Hello friends, welcome back to REST API interview questions. As you know that we have already covered some of the questions in the last video. Very first question, can you tell the disadvantages of RESTful web services? First one, as the services follow the idea of statelessness, so it is not possible to maintain sessions. I have mentioned the same point in the last video as well, right? So this is the feature or the characteristics of a REST API. That REST APIs are statelessness. It means that you cannot maintain the session at the server side. So now if we have to maintain, like if it is your requirement to maintain the session, then you have to do that at client side. So now it is the responsibility of the REST client to maintain the user session. Next point, REST does not impose security restrictions. It inherits the security measures of the protocols implementing it. Hence, care must be chosen to implement security measures like integrating SSL, TLS-based authentication, etc. So guys, you know that REST is based on what? It basically follows the HTTP protocol for the implementation. So, but HTTP is by default not secure. So you have to go and make use of HTTPS. Apart from that, you have to write your own code to secure your data. Like you can go and make use of string security or any other way to protect data, right? But the point is, it's your responsibility to secure or to provide security to your data. Okay, by default REST does not impose any security restrictions. Let's move. While creating URI for web services, what are the best practices that needs to be followed? One of the very important interview questions. So guys, there are certain rules or certain guidelines that you must follow. Very first one is, while defining the resources, use plural nouns. For example, to identify user resource, you should use the name users for that particular resource. Okay, say for example, if you look at the endpoint, right, what I have used students, not student. Okay, so that is what the rule number 1 says, that you have to go and make use of the plural. Okay, it says use plural nouns. Clear? While using the long name for resources, use underscore or hyphen. Avoid using spaces between words. For example, to define authorized users resource, the name can be authorized underscore users or authorized hyphen users. Okay, so second rule is you should avoid using space in between words. You got it, right? Next one is, the URI is cache insensitive, but like as part of good practice, it is recommended to use lowercase letters only. Next, while developing URI, the backward compatibility must be maintained. Okay, so when the URI is updated, the older URI must be redirected to the new one using the HTTP status code 300. Okay, so point is, if you have got the new version of your API, make sure that you still support the older version as well. Okay, so the backward compatibility must be maintained. Next good practice is, use appropriate HTTP methods like get, put, delete, patch, etc. It is not needed or recommended to use these method names in the URI. For example, like you have to fetch user details, right? So the right way to do is /users and then you pass the ID path variable instead of /get users. So basically in your endpoint, right, you should avoid using these methods like get, put or delete kind of things. Okay, next one is, use the technique of forward slashing to indicate the hierarchy between the resources and the collections. Say for example, we have got Facebook users and I want to fetch a particular post, right? So what I will do, my endpoint would look like something like this, /users, and then here I'll pass the ID of that particular user and then /post to get all the posts. In case if I'm looking for any specific post, what I will do, I will use another / and then post ID. Okay, so basically it's a good practice to use the forward slashing to indicate the hierarchy between the resources. All right, next question, what are idempotent methods? So the meaning of idempotent is that even after calling a single request multiple times, the outcome of the request should be same. And guys, it is the responsibility of the developers to design idempotent APIs. So it depends how do you write your code, how do you develop the REST APIs. Okay, so guys, we have got get, put, delete, head, options and trace. All these HTTP methods are idempotent. I'll explain how and why. Okay, so methods like get, options, trace and head are idempotent. because they do not change the state of resources on the server. They are meant for resource retrieval whenever called. Okay, they do not result in write operations on the server. They are making it idempotent. Get is idempotent. Why? If I'm making a get call to one particular endpoint, every time I'll get the same result. Let me give you an example. Guys, what do you see here? I have got my endpoint here, okay, where id equals to 1. Say for example, I'm passing id equals to 2 and I'm going to make a get call, okay. Let me click on send. I have got my result, Trisan. Let me do it again. I have got my same result, Trisan. Let me just go and make another get call. Still same result, okay. So guys, that's why we call get as idempotent function. I can call this particular endpoint 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, my result won't change, okay. My result is going to be same. Alright guys, next is post is not idempotent because post APIs are usually used for creating a new resource on the server. So while calling post methods n times, there will be n new records. This does not result in the same outcome at a time, okay. Now see here guys, I'm going to make a post call, okay. We are going to add a resource where id equals to 7. If I go and click on send, we have resource 201 created, okay. Now guys, let's assume that this id is auto increment. If it is auto generated, okay, if the id is generated auto generated, so I don't have to pass primary key, right? In that case, every time I'm hitting this post endpoint, I will have a new resource into the database. 8, then 9, and then 10. So continuously. So every time you're hitting this particular endpoint, every time it will go and create a new resource into the database with new ID. Okay. So guys, post is not idempotent. Remember this particular thing. Okay. Alright. Next is put. So guys, put methods are generally used for what? For updating the state of a resource. Okay. We use put function to update the existing resource. If you call a put methods n times, the first request update the resource and the subsequent requests will be overwriting the same resource again and again without changing anything. Hence, put methods are idempotent. So very first time when you go and hit the put call, it will update the resource, but after that there will not be any change in the state of the object. Okay, let me show you guys. Say I'm here, I want to update the details of object 7. Okay, so I'm going to make a call post 7. So if I go and check the earlier value for this particular resource, resource 7 was having first name was Virat, second name was Kohli, and email was virat@okjava.com, right? But after performing the put operation, the very last time I changed to Anushka Kohli and the email ID has changed to virat.kohli@gmail.com, right? So this was my first hit. Now if I go and make the same call, I'm going to perform the put operation again, second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time, sixth time, the result is still same. I don't see any change, right? That's why put is also idempotent function. But you have to mention that for the very first time when you perform the put operation, it will go and update the state of the object. But after that, all the subsequent transactions will have no impact. It won't change the state of the object. Clear? Next is delete. So delete methods are said to be idempotent because when calling them for n times, the first request result in successful deletion, status code 200, and the next subsequent request result in nothing, status code 204. The response is different, but there is no change of the resources on the server side. If I'm going to hit the delete function, so for the first time it will delete the record, right? But after that, because we don't even have the record in the database, it won't change the state of the object because the object itself is not there. That's why we call it idempotent. So guys, when you say that put is idempotent, you have to mention your point that very first time it will update the resource, and then after in the subsequent transactions there will not be any change in the state of the object. Similarly, while performing delete operation, in the very first operation it will go and delete the resource, but after that there will not be any change in the state of the data at the server side. Clear? Let me show you guys. Alright guys, I'm going to delete resource where id equals to 7. So this is my first call. I have got status code 200 and what it says, student 7 deleted. Okay, so this was a success call. Now if I go and hit this endpoint again and again, what's going to happen? I'm getting no record found. Okay, because this is how I've handled in my code. Before deleting the resource, I'm checking whether this particular resource exists or not. If it does not exist, return 404. Alright guys, so point is, delete when you perform for the first time, it will delete the record from the database, but after that it will not have any impact on the data. You got it right? Alright guys, let's move. Next question, what is the difference between idempotent and safe HTTP methods? Safe methods are those that do not change any resource internally. These methods can be cached and can be retrieved without any effects on the server. Idempotent methods are those methods that do not change the responses to the resources externally. They can be called multiple times without any change in the responses. Okay, here we have a quick table, you guys can go through it. Next question, can you tell what constitutes the core components of HTTP request? So guys, this request can be your get, put, post, delete, whatever, right? So we are talking about the main components or core components of HTTP request to perform HTTP operations, get, put, post, delete, whatever it is, right? So the format is, you will have HTTP method like verb, the operation that you're going to perform like get, put, post, like say for example post. Then you will have your endpoint where you want to perform the post operation. Okay, like for example http colon double slash colon localhost colon 8080 slash students, okay, to perform the post operation. Then you will have http version saying like 1.0 or 1.1 1.2. Then request header where you can pass like the message body or the format supported by the clients, right? You can pass the accept tag and those things, right? Then you will have request body where you will have the actual data. For example, if we are going to make a post call, right? So we'll pass the object here, like for example student ID, first name, last name, email, and those kind of information in the JSON or the XML format. Okay, so these are the main components of HTTP request. You've got HTTP verb, HTTP method, then URI, HTTP version, request header, and request body. Okay, method or verb, so this tells that what methods the request operation represents, like get, put, post, delete, etc. Okay, URI, so this part is used for uniquely identifying the resources on the server, basically the endpoint. HTTP version, so this indicates the version of HTTP protocol that we are using, for example 1.1. okay, request header, so this has the details of the request metadata such as client type, the content format like JSON or XML, message format, cache settings, etc. Then we have got request body, so this is to represent the actual message content to be sent to the server. Alright guys, so every single HTTP request has got 5 components: method, URI, HTTP version, request header, request body. Alright, similarly there can be a question on what constitutes the core components of HTTP response. So you will have HTTP version like 1.0, 1.1, response code, response header, and response body. Okay, so response status code, so this represent the status code for the requested resource. For example, say 200 is success, 201 resource created, like that. 400 represents client error, 404 resource not found, 500 internal server error. So status code will have the code which will have some meaning. Okay, then HTTP version, this indicates the protocol version. Response header, same thing, this header has the metadata of the response message. Data can be described: what is the content length, content type, response date, what is server type, etc. And then we have got the response body, so this part will contain the actual data that written from the server. Say for example, if I am making a GET call, I am expecting the object in the response. Okay, so HTTP response has got 4 components: status code, HTTP protocol version, response header, and response body. Alright guys, so we are done with this video. I'll cover rest of the interview questions in the next video. Thank you for watching, and please do share and subscribe with your friends. Thank you.